Kevin Lothridge joins me now. He's Executive Director of the National Forensic Science Technology Center and Director of the Global Forensic and Justice Center at Florida International University. Kevin, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. What pieces of evidence would forensic investigators be searching for at a crime scene and the home of a person of interest 3 days into the investigation? What were they looking for?
Well, at the crime scene, they'll be looking for devices used in the improvised explosive device, the bomb, for example. They're going to be looking for human remains, as you guys have been reporting. But they're also going to look at information about the recreational vehicle, things like VIN number, so they can go back and check ownership and making sure it's the exact one that Mr. Warner supposedly had. At the residence, they're going to be looking for all other types of physical evidence and probably digital evidence in this case. It seems to be very sophisticated. You had a countdown timer on this that seemed to be on time and giving a verbal message. So they'll be looking at computers, other electronic devices, things related probably to the internet. They'll be looking for explosive device components, the actual explosive itself potentially, other things that the person would store in their home.
Some really bizarre details coming out of this, including that voice recording that was warning people to get out of the area, could suggest a motive. One thing that I found really striking was how quickly investigators zeroed in on a person of interest. What sort of evidence would allow them to do that? They must have had some common thread that led them to Mr. Warner.
Well, they could have had the license plate off the recreational vehicle, which would have been registered to Mr. Warner if that was the case, because they'd had videos surveillance of that system.
I want to also, turn to this explosion, the sheer devastation in downtown Nashville. It was very expansive. What are some of the forensic challenges in preserving a crime scene in a public space when the entire area is completely destroyed?
Well, the explosion itself doesn't help collect forensic evidence, right? It takes large things and makes them small and spreads them over a large area. So you have your crime scene investigators painstakingly going foot by foot in a grid search to look for components used to make an explosive device. The public area, it was pretty well cordoned off, and you had a large response quickly to the scene, so that's helpful. But the fire, as you're showing on the video right now, destroys evidence pretty quickly.
When it comes to turning over every stone and you're looking at the sheer radius of all of that debris, investigators told us yesterday they were working from the outside perimeter in. It can take days or weeks to find clues at this sort of scene. So how much human labor is needed in such a large forensic investigation? What's the manpower here?
Well, you need as many people as you possibly can, because if you're talking block-wide searches, and you have to go painstakingly foot by foot, sometimes inch by inch, into the crater area. Then you have to excavate the crater area looking for very small components. How was this set off? Was it set off by a timer? Was it set off by some type of other switch device? You're going to look at those components so that they can reconstruct the moments before the blast.
And how exactly, with an explosion this destructive and with such magnitude, how exactly will forensic investigators determine, just what materials were used, how much was used? How can you piece that together?
Well, they'll look at the blast radius, and there's calculations they can do based on what type of explosive was used and the area that the explosion occurred in. You've seen this in other bombings, like the Oklahoma City bombing, where they did those same types of calculations.
How do you differentiate between the pieces of the device and all the other debris that's on the ground? Because there's just so much debris.
They will collect everything and then try to piece it back together to see if it was a part of this or was it just trash on the public street. Certain things will survive, even though there's a devastating explosion. Pieces of circuit boards, wires, things like that could survive, and that's what they're really looking for. It's a real challenge, not only at the scene, but later on when they go back to reconstruct what actually happened.
Some key insight there. Kevin Lothridge, thank you so much.
Thank you.